Hi everybody, today we are going to do chocolate chip crunch cookies that I do at home all the time, and my son and I love them. And it's a pretty simple recipe. It's just basically a chocolate chip cookie recipe. And I love dried fruit, so then I added some raisins into that, and you can add cranberries, apricots, whatever dried fruit you have. And then the recipe calls for corn flakes, but at the time I had frosted flakes, so I used frosted flakes and it actually turned out really well. So here's the video of how I did that, and if there's any questions, I'd love to answer them at the end. Hi kids, my name is Marvin Boden and I'm the executive chef at San Diego At Your Table. Today we're going to make chocolate chip crunch cookies. So let's look at the ingredients and let's start making them. Before we start making our cookies, we're going to wash our hands. We're going to get all those germs off and make sure that our hands are nice and clean. You always want to try to wash your hands for at least 20 seconds. Make sure you get them really clean. And then make sure the water is at least right around 100 degrees. And it'll make sure everything's clean. Okay, I'm going to wipe them off. And then at the kitchen and into it, we put gloves on. We wear gloves on the outside. At home, you don't have to do that as long as your hands are clean. We just want to have a double protection to make sure that our food is safe for everybody. Okay, then we're going to start getting all of our stuff together, measuring it all out. First, we have 2 sticks of unsalted butter, which actually equals out, each stick is 4 ounces, so that'll be 8 ounces of butter, if you want to weigh it out. Okay, put that in the bowl. Okay. And if you noticed, I have the recipe right over here that I'm reading off of. And what would I suggest for you guys is to have your kids read the recipe first, so make sure that they understand and they actually know it. And that way, if they need to come back and look at any of the ingredients, how much that was, they can do so, okay? So the recipe calls for 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar. These are each a 1/4 cup. That's 2, that's a 1/2 cup. And 1 more would be 3. If you notice these little pods that I have in here, I do a lot of baking. So those are vanilla pods. So after I use them, I stick them in my sugar so I can make vanilla sugar, which gives it just a little bit more flavor. Okay, second ingredient calls for brown sugar, and it calls for 1 cup of brown sugar. Okay, typically with brown sugar, you want to put it in, you want to pack it down. Go all the way around the bowl, make sure that's all packed in good, and then we'll check it. Oh, it's still a little low. Usually with baking, you want to be precise on all your measurements. Still a little more on one side. It's not like cooking food where you can just add in a little bit and a little bit and a little bit at a time. Baking, you got to do exactly. So I got 8 ounces exactly, which is 1 cup. I'll add that to the sugar and the butter. And then the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start mixing this. Okay, we want to make sure that this is both incorporated all together. And you can do this with a standing mixer, but I chose to do it in a bowl just because it's not that difficult, and a lot of you probably don't have standing mixers, so it's pretty easy on a bowl too. All you got to do is mix, mix, mix. See, that wasn't that difficult. Okay. Now you're going to add 2 eggs. Okay, one at a time. I like to do them with one hand. I'll crack it, and as I'm pulling, I'll pull it apart and let the egg fall. Okay? It's not difficult at all, it just takes practice. So I'll incorporate this one egg fully before I add the other one. See how it's nice and added, all homogeneous. Okay, I'll add the other egg. I'll crack it, I'll lean it over, and I'll split it with my 2 fingers. Okay, and then I'll add this one fully. Okay. Recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. This is the 1 teaspoon. I'll add that in. I'll mix this, make sure it's all combined. Perfect. Okay. Now the recipe calls for 2 1/3 cups of flour. Okay. I'll take some kind of thing that I can draw a straight line with. And it also calls for it to be sifted. So there's 1. There's 2. I'll take this and make the third of a cup. Perfect. Okay, into this we're going to add our baking powder, which calls for 3/4 of a teaspoon. So I'll do a 1/2 teaspoon. And then I'll do a 1/4 teaspoon. A 1/2 and a 1/4 makes 3/4. Okay? I'm going to sift that into here. And this is basically called adding all the dry ingredients. We also have to add a teaspoon of salt. And I have kosher salt that I'm adding. Okay. Slowly incorporate all this into our sugar and our butter and our eggs and our vanilla extract. And this one you want to take your time a little bit so you don't get flour all over the counter. Just like I did right there. Okay. So now the recipe calls for 2 cups of corn flakes, 2 cups. And add that into there. Then it calls for a 1/4 cup of dried fruit, which you can add anything, cranberries, raisins. I have some currants, so I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of currants, okay? And then it calls for 5 ounces of chocolate. So I have chocolate chips here. I'm gonna add 5 ounces. Okay, went over a little bit. Let's pull some out. And if you don't have a scale at home, this would be about 1.5 cups, or 1 1/4 cups, excuse me. So we can add that in, okay? Then I have 5 ounces. In the recipe, it calls for 2 different chocolates. If you don't have 2 different chocolates, you can add all the same semi-sweet chocolate chips. And I had 2 different chocolates. So 510, I'm going to go ahead and add all that. And this is dark chocolate. So this is just what I had at home, so I'm going to add it, okay? If your parents let you use a knife, you should be holding your knife here like this. It gives you a little bit more accuracy when you're cutting. You want to make sure your hands aren't in the way, and then just slowly cut down. Chocolate's very hard to cut, very hard, so you want to make sure that you're really careful. And that's why I said if you only have semi-sweet chocolate, it's kind of nice just to use semi-sweet, because that way you won't even have to chop it all. All you do is add just the semi-sweet chips into it. So I'm just rough chopping a little bit. Okay. Grab a paper towel so I can push it all inside of my container. Grab that straight in. And we're just going to mix this until it's incorporated. Try not to mix the dough too much. And basically, anyway, after this, after we get it all incorporated, we're going to refrigerate it for an hour. So I let the base chill in the refrigerator for an hour, and now I'm going to start scooping it. This purple scoop that we have is about 2 tablespoons. This you can find at any home goods store. We have that in the kitchen. So take a scoop. Try to level it off as much as I can, because I want all the cookies to be consistent, the same size, so that way when they bake the same way. And in the recipe, it calls for a sill pad down on the bottom. If you don't have a sill pad, which is right here, it's just a cooking mat, right? Silicone based. You can use parchment paper like I'm going to use today. So I'm going to form all the balls. Try to get them all about the same size. got them all scooped up, I just want to lightly press them down. That way it just helps them spread a little bit better. And then they're going to go directly at a 350 oven for 12 minutes. And halfway through the cooking process, I'm going to turn the pan. So my timer for 6 minutes just went off. I'm going to check my oven, and I'm going to turn the pan around because I want even cooking. Close it back, and I'll cook it, and I'll set it for another 6 minutes. And then we'll see how they look in 6 minutes. So the timer just went off for 6 more minutes. Let's check our cookies. Basically in the recipe it says if the cookies aren't shiny anymore, then they're good. I see just a little bit of shine on them, so I'm going to put them in just for another minute. Okay, our minute timer went off. Let's pull them out again. They look good. I'll put them on a rack to chill so they'll cool down. Probably about 8 or 10 minutes, and then I'll put them in a container so I can store them with a plastic lid, or I'll eat a couple. Hopefully you enjoy these, and thank you very much for joining me at your table into it. There you go. I hope everybody enjoyed those. Just so you all know, this will be posted later on the Slack channel at Your Table Food if you want to view it later. Are there any questions out there?
I have a question. What was the dried fruit that you put in there? Did you say currant?
Currants.
What are those?
Younger grape or raisin.
Oh, okay. A younger grape?
Yes, they're not mature. They're not fully matured yet.
Those look delicious.
Yes, and it's the only dry fruit I had at home, so that's why I decided to use that. And in the recipe, it calls for a 1/4 cup of dried fruit. And if you love dried fruit, you can add a 1/2 cup, maybe even 3/4 of a cup in there if you want.
Sounds good. I think we all would like to have some shipped to our house, please.
I still have some in my freezer too.
Thanks, Chef. I'm going to add some of the crunchy cereal to my next batch. See how that turns out.
Yeah, I know. I made it once from another chef's recipe that I found online from New York, and just love that whole cereal concept inside of a cookie. And it's awesome, especially with that extra crunch in there. It's so nice. So ever since we've been doing that, me and my son have just loved to do that. So
that's cool. It just made me think my wife and kids have been eating a lot of dry mango lately. They found this really cool one that's got the chili already on it. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking about making a cookie out of that. I think they would really dig it.
That sounds nice, especially with some chocolate in there too. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, chocolate mango with the crunch. That's going to be really good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chef. Appreciate it.
Thanks for the inspiration, Chef. We all want to eat cookies now.
Thank you. So do I. It's a little earlier, but you know, hey, might as well.
Have a good day.
You too. Thank you, guys.